My sister, 30 female, wants to reconnect after making my 27 male life a misery. My wife, 29 female, is pushing me to make amends. Original post. I am the youngest of 4 children. Sisters 36, 34, 30, and me, 27. My 30-year-old sister Lisa physically and emotionally abused me. She would pick on me at school to curry favor with her classmates. It started with her calling me names and then escalated by the 5th grade. She pantsed me in front of a group of girls, exposing my private bits to a group of female friends. While I was young, she would beat me up. On more than one occasion, she would leave me bloody. When I was bigger than her and when she couldn't physically overpower me, she began spreading horrible rumors, including things about my purported homosexuality, bestiality, and sexual deviance. The teachers took her side, including the school's disciplinarian. They felt that I was making this up because she was a great student. I was also a straight A student as well. My sister consistently denied the accusations to my parents. My sister would play innocent at home and cry about how I was so mean to her and would go out of her way to be nice to me at home. Fortunately, my parents didn't buy it and eventually sent me to a different school to avoid her. My parents could never prove what she had done and were stonewalled by school officials who didn't see the bullying. Since the school was no help, my parents separated us and would routinely ensure that at home we were separated. She was even put in therapy, but she would still never admit to anything, even though they opted to send me to a different school in the same city. But I couldn't bring friends over because she would quickly tell them about my personality. Because of the abuse, my sister was phenomenally popular at school. She was basically treated like royalty by people who would ask what weird shit I had done on the weekend. If I wore a new shirt to school, she'd tell classmates that I was trying to fit in, so they'd amp up the abuse. Fortunately, this was before the rise of social media. I left for the university across the country, and it was transformative. I could be myself. My parents put me into therapy while I was at school, and I had to work on some issues, including trust and body issues, some of which I still have. A few years after high school, she eventually came clean to a therapist and admitted to my family what she had done to me. My family was horrified. My oldest sisters had routinely thought I was making this up, and while they wouldn't engage in the abuse, would never take my side or protect me. Consequently, I am close to my parents, but I could easily go the rest of my life without seeing my sisters. My oldest sister Sarah has made frequent attempts to reconcile, as have my other sisters, but I am not really interested. I got married last year, finished my graduate education, law school, and started working. My wife Audrey and I decided to elope, where we only invited parents and had a quick ceremony. Due to an unforeseen condom incident where I went in without a helmet, we got pregnant and had a beautiful daughter. Problem is, my sister Lisa and other sisters not only want to make amends, but to meet our daughter. I came home from work and my wife was sitting at the dinner table. She was reading a letter and asked me to sit down. My sister Lisa had written a long letter. Audrey wanted to read it first in case it was more of her craziness. In it, she outlined that she had been abused by someone outside of her family. She wrote about how she had ruined my life and relations with my sisters. She apparently had a sit down with my family and told them everything and wanted to approach me before they told me what was going on. I read the letter and felt very little, mostly disdain for her. My wife booked a couples therapy session. The therapist asked that we speak alone and we talked. I told her the extent of my sister's abuse and to what degree she had haunted my youth. The therapist was helpful but did recommend that I work on my issues some more. Felt like a money grab and that I should look within myself to forgive my sister, even if that means I don't pursue a relationship. My wife thinks that I should forgive her and that she and my sister should meet at a public location with the baby. I told my wife that if I'm forced to be near Lisa, I'll simply explode and have refused. Audrey didn't push it then, but has begun applying pressure on me to begin forgiving my sister. My sisters have also stepped up the frequency of the emails, letters, and communications through my letter or my wife. I got Lisa's email and wrote a formal cease and desist letter warning her that any further communication with me, my wife, or child would result in further legal action. It got back to my wife, who has been really upset with me. I feel like I have every right to keep them out of my life and owe them nothing. My wife thinks I owe my sister, who she feels has deeply been traumatized, the ability to apologize to my face. This past weekend, I was out getting some groceries for Audrey. When I arrived home, there was a car in the driveway that I didn't recognize. I went in and found my oldest sister. I was furious. I told her and her husband to get out. I was furious with my wife. We got into a fight and I told her to never, ever blindside me again or I'd divorce her. She felt bad, but I was so mad that I spent the weekend sulking and working in the basement. Honestly, Reddit, I don't know what to do. Everyone is pushing me one way, and I absolutely hate the idea of ever forgiving her. Now for the top of comments before reading the update. My wife thinks that I should forgive and that she and my sister should meet at a public location with the baby. Your wife is wrong. If you aren't comfortable, your sister does not see your baby and your sister is only allowed into your life on your terms. I could write a book on the screwed up relationship my husband and sister-in-law have. She's a two-faced, horrible person who has the entire world eating out of her hand. No one believes she could do the things that she's done, and she's flipped the narrative to make herself the victim. She isn't. She tried to be all pals once she has kids so that her kids could play together. Nope. Husband has her on Facebook as a family compromise, but they haven't spoken in years, and that woman does not get to see her kids. Your wife needs to learn boundaries. What she did was 1000% not okay. I'm sure Audrey was doing it from a good place, but I can't imagine a more fucked up approach. She came to apologize without any qualifications and said that she was sorry, but I really cannot understand how she felt that would work. My sister and her husband have these perplexed looks on their face, and my sister's husband tried to make personal offense. I mean, it was such a bizarre situation. Your wife is buying into the mentality that family trumps all. I used to be the same myself. After my first pregnancy announcement, I tried to mend fences. Husband said he wasn't okay with it, but I could go ahead on my own. It was a stupid choice that I immediately regretted. It became so clear that she had no problems with what she had done. In fact, using the opening I gave her to try to convince me my own memories were false. It was clear all she wanted was access to my kids and the picture-perfect appearance for Facebook. I used to be your wife. I thought we needed her to be a family and to keep everyone happy. I know it kills my mother-in-law. She will never see her grandkids all together, but we don't. We are happier without her. Even if she's good, I have peace of mind knowing that woman has no influence or place in our lives. Explain to your wife again how much damage your sister has done, and that even if you choose to forgive her, for your own peace, you do not want her in your lives. Any attempts to reach out by your wife will be regarded as betrayal. My wife is also very much of the mentality that we should try and create a big family for our daughter, which I'm not too worried about. My parents have been good at keeping the peace and staying out of the whole fight. My wife, as much as I love her, can be really naive. Now for the updates. Welp, I don't know where to begin. I posted just over a week ago and I'm still gathering my thoughts, so here goes. After reading all the comments, I went and spoke to Audrey, my wife. She knew I was furious still and quickly opened the floor by apologizing and saying many of the things you had all said here. She even referenced comments by you/Naptown Cook, which took me by surprise. She said that she saw the thread. She was Googling relationship advice and came across r/relationships and saw this thread and realized that I had written it. Luckily, I used a throwaway account, We talked, she cried, and I ate. I felt vindicated, but was annoyed that I didn't get to have my dramatic moment. From what she told me, she has an aunt that her mother won't speak to, and she didn't want it getting to that level, and that is why she cried and she felt bad for everything, including meeting to my sisters without my knowledge or consent. It goes like this for a while, and I'm, wait, meet? As in, I've met them before, not just at our house. I asked her to clarify, and she admits that she met my sisters, save for Lisa, and I'll be getting to that, before. My wife's school is adjacent to where my sister works. I didn't know this. and they had met for coffee and lunch on a few occasions, with my middle sister coming to meet with them at least once. Son of a bitch. By this point, I am again furious. My oldest sister had bumped into my wife and they struck up a conversation. The thing is, my mother provided pictures to my sister, so she knew exactly who she was. By bumped into, my sister simply found my wife and introduced herself. I felt bad. I again escaped to my man cave, which is basically a room in the basement, where I occasionally smoke cigars and drink with my friends. After I cooled down, I went to talk to Audrey. She had made me steak and ordered Chinese food, which was a cheap attempt to try and calm the situation. And fortunately, it worked. We talked. After telling her that another omission and I was going to seriously question our marriage. I get the entire story, and buckle in for this one, people. Lisa, my never-do-well abusive sister, has basically ruined the lives of everyone in my family. She accused the husband of my middle sister of being a sexual pervert and admitted to a very fake affair. She then rocked my oldest sister's world by apparently front-kicking my youngest nephew, who was probably 3. Apparently my nephew was sitting and signing loudly at the TV, so she front-kicked him. The front kick was Lisa's favorite weapon, which I remember all too well. My sister's husband apparently tackled her and my mother called the police. She was taken for a psych hold, and in lieu of criminal charges, she was admitted for a stay in a regional psychiatric facility and is barred from contact with my family for the time being. I'll get to that too. She was diagnosed with a slew of mental disorders. No shit. My parents know I have a zero-tolerance policy for Lisa-related news, which is why it never filtered back to me. So, needless to say, my sister is mentally ill and now the entire family knows. What infuriated me was that Audrey knew this incident and wanted me to make amends. The chance that my kid gets within 100 meters of Lisa is nil. I basically told Audrey to drop the Lisa issue. It was a non-starter. She's too sick, and I am too sure that she's not putting people on, that she's that cunning, and too dangerous, and I'm not going to put myself in any position to deal with her. Audrey accepted that. My oldest sister had to face a bunch of demons and now realizes that to protect her husband and children, they can't be around Lisa, especially unsupervised. And Lisa can only be at events where there are a lot of potential witnesses. Lisa is not welcome at their home or my parents' home, and to interact with her. It has to be in a public place. Lisa cannot go near the children or her husband. My middle sister nearly wound up divorced. Her husband consistently claimed his innocence, but Lisa could spin a phenomenal story that was so convincing that people began to believe she was having an affair. My sister and her husband went through hell, but it turns out details are not Lisa's strength, and she wound up making claims that couldn't be backed up. And that's when it all fell apart. So my sister's husbands have banned Lisa from their houses and from seeing their kids. Lisa is now living in an apartment by herself and in routine therapy. Well, I guess after all these events went down, it became apparent that not only was I not crazy, but my reaction to it had been, at least partly, justified. My sisters decided that they wanted to make amends, but I had been really disinterested. That's when they picked on the weakest duckling, my wife. My mother didn't think it was a great idea and thought if there was going to be a meeting, my mother should put it out there and just let it be. I honestly would have chosen that route, but no. Audrey, doing her best to infuriate and annoy me, asked that I meet my sisters. It would be me, my 2 sisters, and no one else. I could set the time and place. I agreed on the condition that Audrey not attend and that there be 0 expectations. I chose to meet them at a local pub, which I go to about an hour early. All week I had been dreading this. We had decided to meet on a Saturday afternoon. I got there early and I already had 2 pints in when they arrived. We sat and had a few moments of stilted conversation. I realized that their husbands had come and were sitting at a different table, so I simply invited them over. My sisters had brought pictures of their family and they talked about what they were up to and how they were proud of me for becoming a lawyer. Just as I was about to have my dramatic moment, the wind was knocked out of my sails again. My middle sister jumps straight to it and apologizes profusely, as does my oldest sister and her husband, who grabs my hand and tells me how sorry he is. Okay, seriously? I was infuriated that I was going to have my big dramatic moment only to have the proverbial chair kicked out from under me. This caused me to drink more. There must have been over an hour of them telling me what a scumbag my sister is, how they are sorry, how they realize they damaged my childhood, etc. Well, afternoon turns to evening. I recommend that we take a photo to send to my parents. They haven't seen their kids together in years. Well, when drunk, you, recycled crazy, doesn't apparently think things through. My parents are thrilled and share the photos with my wife. Audrey begins to call my phone. I'm still pissed off with her, and she leaves me teary, maudlin messages. Then the idea bounces around that my sisters will host a combined birthday party and family get-together early next month. Being drunk, I agree. This gets around to my parents and wife, who can't believe how well this has turned out. I am not thrilled. I drank a little too much, and I'm not thrilled. I agreed to some family gathering in October, but I could see how much it meant to my parents, and I realized that holding on to so much anger really made me feel better but was hurting them, and I don't want to be vindictive, so I can tolerate getting to know them all again at a family event. So before we went our separate ways, I got to ask a question. Why didn't they believe me? Basically, it boiled down to the fact that Lisa could lie like she breathes and could easily build a narrative where it wasn't clear who was being forthright, and I often took the blame. I told them how I still have trust issues and how Lisa's abuse impacts my personal life. This caused them to get teary and apologize, which sadly didn't make me as happy as I dreamt it would be. My wife has been really happy, and my mother called and admitted that she knows this is just a first step and it's not an easy process. But having her family get back together is something that weighed heavily on her. So I guess I made everyone happy. I'm not thrilled getting the answers I wanted, didn't feel as good as I thought it would be. But I guess there is a weight lifted, and the feeling that people know I wasn't crazy or a liar or wrong makes me feel better. Story 2. My 22 male girlfriend, 21 female, ended up at a frat house at 4 a.m. So my girlfriend, 21, went out to a concert with her friend, but couldn't get in, so instead they went to a rooftop nightlife venue. That same day, I, 22 male, went out with the both of them to dinner and such, so I already knew everything that was going on, so I didn't really care. Around 12 a.m., she tells me that they're going to a rooftop nightlife venue. After we stop texting, she calls me. We get off the phone around 1 a.m. after talking for like 5 to 10 minutes, where she tells me to text her saying that she wants to keep talking to me, but can't hear me, which I do. I sent her 3 texts after that period where she just read them and didn't reply. I didn't think much of it and went to sleep. But fast forward, she texts me at 4 a.m. saying that she needs me to pick her and her friend up and that it's an emergency. I'm sleeping, so I don't see that until she calls me 30 minutes later saying the same thing, that she has an emergency and wants me to pick her up and her friend. So I drive to wherever they are, and it's a random fraternity house about 30 minutes from where they were at before, at the rooftop nightlife venue. This is what I found out after the fact. Her friend got kicked out of the rooftop nightlife venue, and these guys told them that they'd take them home, which is about 5 to 10 minutes from where they were. Instead, they ended up at a fraternity house 30 minutes away. The guys that drove her and her friend to the frat house said that they were going to take them home, and that she had no idea that they were going there, and that she also didn't know it was a fraternity house, even though her friend, while drunk, knew pretty well that it was, and said it was, when I picked them up. She said that she also didn't think anything of it and that she didn't notice that they were driving for so long. From there, they stayed for a little bit and drank before she eventually ends up texting me and calling me. She also kept telling me she couldn't text me once we got off the phone because her phone was dead. But it wasn't dead since she read the message initially, and she also let me see her battery percentage through the settings that showed her phone wasn't dead the same day. She said that she didn't do anything and that she kept saying that she was constantly only talking about me. I just want some advice from other people on the whole situation, because up to this point, I've never felt so uneasy in our relationship. Now for the top of comments. While I agree your girlfriend was dumb as hell and made some excuses that are questionable, young drunk people sometimes act dumb as hell. Is her friend single? She may have just went along for the ride. Her phone may not have been dead, but almost dead. If I'm at 10% out drinking, I treat it as dead. Basically, I wouldn't excuse this as being okay, but everyone saying she definitely got nailed at the party is majorly projecting. I was in an LDR in college and spent many nights at frat parties without cheating a single time. I've also been in situations where I'm out until God knows, when doing God knows what, because my friend is obliterated and should not be getting into a random car by themselves, but will not come home with me. And it's time to play babysitter because I'm less drunk and don't want to explain to a jury why I let my friend get raped. You aren't wrong to feel uneasy. Wait a couple of days and ask for a recounting. See how consistent it is. If you can't trust her in the relationship, but maybe she's just 21 and got drunk and made some bad decisions and her explanations don't add up because she was drunk. You know her best. Definitely agree here. The mere fact that she existed at a frat house does not mean she cheated 100%. She definitely made some bad decisions, getting into a random person's car for one. But again, that doesn't mean she definitely cheated. I'm curious if she texted him right away saying emergency. He didn't check it obviously as he was sleeping. She had a drink and babysat her friend and then finally called him. Was the emergency that she was at a random frat house, or was there an additional emergency that happened while they were there? I agree with you. Give it a few days, then have a conversation about what had happened. Don't accuse, listen and assess if it matches what she told you when you picked her up, and go from there. If she seems to be trickle-truthing or things don't seem to add up, then I'd be concerned about cheating. As is, it just sounds like she made some extremely poor decisions and put herself in a potentially dangerous situation, which she needed her boyfriend to bail her out of. I agree, she might not have cheated on him, but come on. Any of us that are into frats or went to frat parties knows that they have a reputation for a reason. It's 2023. Ubers are readily available. Who gets into cars with random strangers in the middle of the night? Women especially would notice they were in the car for 3 times longer than they should have been and not being brought home. Maybe I had different friends, but unless extremely drunk, they would have at least texted someone to let them know something was weird and these guys weren't driving them home. Unless, of course, OP's girlfriend isn't telling the truth about the actual events of the night and what she knew. OP said that she lied about her cell phone going dead, and that was her excuse for not being able to contact him throughout the night. OP seems to think she is being dishonest about the fact it was a frat house when it seemed pretty clear to her friend. I do agree maybe she panicked because the optics looked so bad, but it seems pretty clear that she isn't being fully honest about what she was and wasn't aware of, playing way too naive to be believable. It would be very telling if OP mentioned how long she was there before texting him to be picked up and what the emergency was. OP said that they stayed for a bit and drank before she texted him that she had an emergency. Story just doesn't add up. Edit: the cover-up is always worse than the crime. I see commenters are saying that OP's girlfriend could have been drunk and mistakenly went back to a frat house. This is very true, and something like this probably happened to a lot of us in college. It's the fact that she is lying or playing completely naive. If she was honest and told him exactly why and how things happened, then there wouldn't probably be an issue. Why lie if there was nothing to cover up? That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you.